Hello, this is Vlad here, and in lesson 5 we'll go through how to use the direct and selection tools. Which are those two? First I'll draw a basic shape and I'll show how to make shapes later, but let's go through the tools first. So I made a shape and I selected the tool. As you can see, I can click and move them around. If I click here, it also works. I can also go to the corners, I can resize. I can press Shift to constrain proportions, you can see here. Okay, then now I will move to more advanced settings. So I'll double click the arrow. So let's do that again. Go over it and double click. And now this panel opens and you can make precise measurements and movements. So let's say move 100 pixels horizontal and 100 pixels vertical. And an angle of 0. As you can see, the angle changes the horizontal and vertical. So let's change that again. And now you can see that the angles have automatically adjusted. You must press the preview option in order to see how it changes. So now if you click here and you press Shift and you scroll the mouse up, you'll increase the number by 10 increments. If you don't press the Shift, it will only go by 1 increment. So Shift 10, scrolling simple is just 1. Okay then. So let's see our action. As you can see, it moves. Now you can also change the angle and the distance adjusted. This is proportional with the initial values you enter here, but they obviously change to reflect the angle you've chosen. So if you choose 45, minus 45, let's type it in. We don't have directly the initial measurements, but we got a pretty idea what those things do. Now you got two options here called transform objects, which is enabled, but you can't select it, and one called transform patterns. Later we will go through all of those and we can see what each do, especially when we'll be dealing with the effect called transform. Now you also got this copy option, and let's click it and see what happens. And you got a copy of your original object. Now the original object will stay in the same position, but the new one has moved according to your specifications. Okay, this is for the direct selection tool. One other thing is if you move to the corners, you'll see this banded arrow. You can rotate your object. Be wary that Illustrator doesn't save the value of rotation. As you can see here. So even I rotate, it's still 0. I'll show you the transform panel later in another lesson. But for now, let's move on to the direct selection tool. Let's click an object. And you can see here, it functions almost the same as the other one. So what's the difference between them? Now, if we click a point, or just the edge, you see that the points are not selected. If you click a point, only the point is selected. Now, if we choose the selection tool, we can see that the entire object is selected. We cannot select individual points. But with the direct selection tool, shortcut A, we can choose individual points. And of course, you can move them. As you can see, we got our first custom shape. If you select from the middle and not from an edge, all the points will be selected. And you can move the entire object without fear of distorting anything. It's the same. You can double click. Let's select first the point, of course. And you got the same options, like copy and so on. You see, when I made the copy, it only copied the 3 points, and the first point is the one we actually copied, and the two are those that are connected to it. And this is the center. This is not a point, this is just a sign that shows where the center of this object is supposed to be. Okay, let's delete it. Just press delete. And I want to show you another tool. It's called Group Selection Tool. It's almost similar to Direct Selection Tool, but will select all the points if you click just the point. Now, if you don't want to constantly switch between them, and as you can see, this one doesn't have a shortcut, you can just select a point, hover over it, see, hover over, press Alt or Option, and click, and all will be selected. The plus sign is the sign for the Group Selection Tool, and if you press Alt, it will show the analog version. Okay, this is enough for this lesson, and we gone through how to move objects and how to choose points, and we'll move to the next lesson. Thank you. See you next time.